Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Jason Chin. I'm the Operations Lead and Medical Officer at the National Cancer Society. It's nice to meet all of you. Good evening on this wonderful Thursday evening. Today, we are going to talk about HPV, leaving no one behind. So, we've spoken about medical terms and we've spoken about the medical aspects of HPV. Let's now talk about the psychosocial or the mental health aspects of HPV. Today's title for our talk today is Stigma Surrounding HPV, and it's been given by our wonderful senior clinical psychologist, Miss Kai. So just to introduce Miss Kai a bit of background for her lah. Ms. Lee Kai is a senior clinical psychologist of the Psychosocial Support Services Department at the National Cancer Society of Malaysia. She works closely with cancer patients and their caregivers by providing essential support and improving quality of life throughout their challenging journeys from coping with the initial diagnosis to navigating the complexities of treatment, survivorship, or end-of-life care. Her areas of expertise include assessment and diagnosis of mental disorders, anxiety, depression, stress, panic, trauma, end-of-life care, grief, bereavement, interpersonal relationships, and self-development. She regularly speaks at workshops and has been invited for media engagement with My Health Media on topics pertaining to cancer and mental health. So just to remind everyone, today we are going to talk about HPV, cervical cancer, as well as how that relates to the mental health aspect. And we got our senior clinical psychologist, Miss Kai, here. So without further ado, Miss Kai, take it away.
Hello. Can hear me quite clearly, right? Because I can
Yeah.
hear some echo. Wait. All right, can see the size. Hello, everyone. It's nice to see you all again. Wow, I got a little bit of nervous because today I'm partnered with Dr. Jason.
No lah, nervous for what? Chill lah. Only nothing one.
Yeah, so I think we will still remain Dr. Jason at this stage lah because I might need him with some medical informations also. So yeah, without further ado, again, I'm a senior clinical psychologist at National Cancer Society Malaysia, and we will begin our webinar today, which is the Breaking the Silence, Understanding and Overcoming HPV Stigma. So, okay, next, right? Next slides. Okay, so today we will learn about to provide accurate information about the HPV, debunk the common myth, and also discuss about what are the psychological effects of HPV stigma on individuals, and also learn self-management strategy to overcome this stigma. So let's begin. Okay, so Dr. Jason, I need you to help to let the audience to understand a little bit of what is HPV. Yeah.
Okay, can. So, human papilloma virus is a type of virus that is found on both men and women. Most of the time, we are carriers, silent carriers, meaning we have the infection, but we don't have any of the symptoms, we don't have any of the diseases, right? It's the most commonly sexually transmitted infection worldwide. And 95% of cervical cancer, which is cancer pangkal rahim, is caused by this HPV virus. For women, it can cause cervical, genital, and anal cancers. But for men, they're not spared. They can also get penis cancer, anal cancer, and some head and neck cancers in men as well. So, men, if you are listening, please listen carefully because you guys can get affected too, right?
Yet, so I think a lot of people will be asking so what is the relationship with the stigma and the HPV? But before we go into more further about the misconception and also the stigma, I think we need to understand first what is stigma. Okay, so basically stigma is defined as you labeling, stereotyping, separation, status loss, or any kind of discrimination based on a specific identity or health conditions. Okay, so it can interfere with your behavior in help seeking, which result in delay diagnosis or delays of avoidance of treatments. And also there are two primary types of stigma. The first one is public stigma and the second one is self-stigma. So basically public stigma means that societal disapproval and also your negative attitudes towards those with HPV. Okay, so this can manifest in discriminations and prejudice. But for self-stigma, it's more occur when you yourself internalize all these negative beliefs and which make you to feel more guilt and shame.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one we will be talking about what are some of the common misconceptions about HPV and what is their contributions to stigma. So um, we all know that there are always many misconceptions surrounding the HPV, right? Like deeply contribute significantly to the stigma associated with the HPV, affecting people to seek information, treatment, and also preventive measure also. So let us explore some of the common misconceptions and how they perpetuate the stigma. Let us look at number one. Okay, so a lot of people believe that only those who engage in promiscuous behavior can contract with HPV. So actually, these misconceptions is stem from a lack of understanding about the prevalence and also the transmissions of HPV. So what impact does these misconceptions have is that individual with HPV, right, they may face social judgment and also stigma due to the belief that their infection is a result of promiscuity. So when individual believe that only the promiscuous behavior leads to the HPV, those who are diagnosed may internalize the feeling of like guilt and shame, even if their infection occur through consensual or responsible for sexual activity. So this is internalized stigma, right? Can actually like exacerbate the existing mental health conditions or contribute to the development of conditions like stress,
Mm.
anxiety, or depressions. And moreover, the fear of social judgments and the rejections can also lead to the isolations and avoidance of seeking support or medical care. So, like for example, individual may delay or avoid the necessary medical treatments, which can worsen their physical health outcomes as well. And they also might avoid the social interactions or disclosing on one HPV status or to partner can quite strain their relationship and hinder the intimacy and also communication. So you see, these misconceptions can actually impact physically, not just physically, but also can impact psychologically. So what is the fact, Dr. Jason?
Yeah. So the
Mm,
fact actually, right, is this: HPV is actually a very common infection. Anyone who is
mm,
sexually active will get it. You can get it, and most sexually active people will contract HPV at some point in their lives, regardless of the number of sexual partners. Because even if you get the virus, doesn't mean it will become infection. Doesn't mean it become cancer. Some people with
mm,
HPV virus will self-limited, means they will kill themselves. Your body will fight off the virus itself. But some people who cannot fight off the virus, it will progress into cervical cancer. And the thing about it is this: most of the time, right, you just need to have sexual intercourse with one person, which is your husband or your wife. You get it, and
mm,
you can get this HPV infection already. So it's actually a very common infection. So if anyone here has ever done a pap smear, anyone has done a HPV DNA test, or has anyone screened for cervical cancer before, or is a cervical cancer patient, I just want to tell you and give you the reassurance that no, it's not because you're sexually active, it's not because you're promiscuous, but
mm.
it is a very common infection that you should not be worried about. Actually, Miss Kai, so that's a very interesting thing I wanted to ask you. Why do you think our society has this stigma against? Well, because you said like lack of information or lack of knowledge, right? But
Mm,
why do
mm,
you think that happened in the first place? Why do you think we have this misconception about HPV?
I think it's because a lot of people relate that HPV is related to women.
Mm,
Is
okay.
it? It's like only those who have sexually active. That means that they only will have the risk to get the HPV infections, or
Mm,
they might think that all this is for only like high risk this high risk of illness, then only my contract with HPV. Yeah. So if today I didn't study all this, right, I wouldn't know also, to be honest.
okay.
Right.
So yeah, so that's the thing about our cultural and societal background. It's something that we should definitely need to tackle. We definitely need to tackle some of these myths about HPV as well, because it's not fair for women
Mm,
who get the vaccine, for women to do screening, and who are
yep.
cancer patients who have to suffer this stigma. And
Mm.
I'm glad we're doing this today, right? Okay,
Okay.
so myth and fact number one done already, right? So
Yes,
Miss Kai,
done
you're the
already.
on fact number two, myth number two.
Yes. Yes, let us go to misconceptions number 2. So a lot of people think that HPV is always symptomatic, meaning they show symptoms. So this is quite a common misunderstanding about HPV as well. So many people believe that if they have HPV, they will always show a quite obvious symptoms such as genital warts or abnormal cervical cells. So actually, individual may experience a heightened anxiety and fear about their health if they do not have visible symptoms of HPV. So this fear can actually lead to constant worry and hypervigilance about their potential health issues, which impact their overall well-being and quality of life. And the belief that HPV always present with symptoms may actually cause the individual to delay, like again just now what I mentioned, to delay and avoid testing and also treatments. Okay,
Mm,
so they will keep assume that if they do not have symptoms, they are not infected.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for those who have no symptoms but contracted with HPV, right, they may actually grapple with uncertainty about their HPV status and its potential implications for their health and future. So this uncertainty can also lead to like rumination, worry, constantly thinking, and difficult to cope with the unknown, and which might increase their anxiety and also their distress as well. So, Dr. Jason, we need you again to talk about what is the fact.
Yeah. So the misconception is that HPV is always symptomatic, but the actual fact is that many HPV infections are asymptomatic, right? Meaning you may have the virus, you may be infected with the virus, but you may not have any symptoms. You are what we call a silent carrier, right?
Mm,
And the thing about these silent carriers is that you may never know whether you have this virus or not. Hence, you need to do regular screenings as well as HPV tests to detect asymptomatic infections and preventing associated health complications, which means if you can detect if you can detect cervical cancer early, or if you can detect the HPV virus early, treatment is fast, easy, and cheap. Whereas if it's detected later, it's much more expensive, much more difficult, and much longer treatment. What I mean by this is that normally, let's say if it's early stage, right? Treatment is usually just a surgery and radiotherapy. Some people avoid
mm,
chemotherapy altogether. I personally know a cervical cancer patient. I think you know her, so Miss Mindy Tan. She's managed to do. She was detected very early stage. Just did surgery. Just did
mm,
radiotherapy. Managed to avoid chemotherapy actually. So
mm,
she was fine. Whereas if you're looking at stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 cervical cancer, you cannot run. It has to be surgery, chemotherapy, and radiotherapy, right? Which is much more longer, much more expensive, and a bit more side effects. So hence, regular screenings and HPV testing is important. And right, so
okay.
I think this conception about actually if I got no symptoms, right, means I got no infection. I think it's like
Mm.
very Malaysian culture. It's like I don't have anything. I okay lah. I should be fine lah. I don't need to worry lah.
Yeah, and also in Malaysia culture, right, they always have this is like, if I don't go and check, that means nothing happened. Right?
Yeah. So it's like, if I never check
Yeah.
means I'm okay. But
Mm,
that's why like it's actually important to actually do this regular screening, because if you can detect early,
mm,
it's cheaper, faster, and easier to treat if it's compared to later. This also is involving to men as well, right? If you can detect things earlier,
mm,
it's treatment is faster, easier, and simpler. Unfortunately, I know a lot of men are I'm me included, quite stubborn to do screening. I'm trying to go
mm.
for screening more regularly as well, and I encourage every man here to do your cancer and health screening regularly. Okay,
Yet.
so
So let us go to
misconception.
misconception number 3. Okay, so now we're moving on to the misconception number 3. A lot of people always also think that HPV always lead to cancer. So this is another common misunderstanding understanding that we need to address. A lot of people believe that all HPV infections will progress to cancer if never get treated. So the impact of this misconception is quite significant as well lah. Because if a person believes that all HPV infections leads to cancer, they will have increased anxiety and distress upon receiving a diagnosis. So this can actually manifest in quite various ways, lah, including increased worry about their health, difficulties in like coping with the diagnosis, and also even avoidance of like seeking necessary medical care and support. Okay, so what is the fact, Dr. Jason?
Okay. So the fact is this. Just like, and while certain strains of HPV are linked to increased risk of cervical cancer, most HPV infections don't lead to cancer.
Mm,
Basically, sometimes the HPV infection, once you kena it, it can resolve on its own, right? Basically, your body has immunity to fight off the virus and kill the virus off before it causes any of these problems. But sometimes in women, especially if they, number one, they're old, number two, they got immune problems, means their immune system is weak, like people with HIV. Three, if they have very poor diet, if they're always overweight or obese, they have lower immunity, diabetes as well, because that lowers your immunity. Any condition with lower immunity are
mm,
increased risk for cervical cancer because your body
mm,
cannot kill the HPV virus. The virus just keeps staying there, mutate, spread, and then it will cause your cervix, your pankarahi, to become
mm,
cancerous, right? So that's why preventive measures are actually very important. Preventive measures such as vaccination, regular screenings, and early detection can actually help reduce your associated risk, right? So vaccination meaning a HPV vaccine. Basically, you are injecting yourself with a protein from the virus, so that your
mm,
body builds an immunity against it. So the next time you gonna, your body knows how to fight it. So it's stronger and faster to fight off the virus. So by doing that, you protect about 90+% from cervical cancer. That's why vaccination is important. Regular screenings as well as early detection can also help reduce the risk. So it's actually very important. And I like what you mentioned earlier about the stress and all that, because I don't know if you've ever met them in your practice, but sometimes when they get a positive screening for HPV DNA, people panic.
mm. True,
So they
true.
panic, like, oh, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Does it mean I have
Mm,
cancer? So a lot of times we will
yep.
tell the patient, no, it's not cancerous. It just means you have the infection. We just need to do further tests to confirm if everything is normal, right? It doesn't,
Mm.
a positive test, a positive screening does not confirm you have a cervical cancer. You need to do further testing to confirm it, right?
Yet, because a lot of people they were quick to judge that, oh, I have HPV already, that means I got cancer, because a lot of people heard about cancer, this word means death already. So that's why they were very shocked and they were very scared, fear about the outcomes and all that. So now I think Dr. Jason just explained a very informative explanations about HPV do not directly lead to cancer. Okay, so now let's move on to misconception number 4. Okay, this one, a lot of people also think that HPV only affects women. So I think this is a misconceptions that we quite often encounter and is very, very important to clarify lah. So many people think about this, but which is not true lah. Okay,
Mm,
men who believe that HPV only affect women actually may feel like quite less masculine if they are diagnosed with the virus. So these
mm,
misconceptions can contribute to the feeling of shame, embarrassment, and also vulnerability because it challenged the traditional notions of male invulnerability and strength as well. So these misconceptions about HPV only affects women, but when the men get it, will discourage the men from seeking medical help and also discussing their concerns with healthcare provider. So what are
mm.
the facts?
Yeah. So the fact is, fortunately or unfortunately, HPV
Mm,
affects both men and women, right? Men can get the virus and transmit the virus, and there are also risks for HPV-related cancers. I think you mentioned, you actually put it up in the slide earlier, but men
mm,
are at risk for things like warts. If you ever seen like a penis with a lot of circle on top of it, those are genital warts. Other than that,
mm,
your risk of getting penis cancer means of the Kemaluan area for men.
mm,
Other than that, anal cancer, which is the buttocks, and throat cancer as well. Those are increased risk, especially if you have the virus. You're increased risk for all of those types of cancers as well. So actually, most modern countries, when they give the vaccination for HPV, right, they don't just give the women; they also give the men, right? Men also can get the HPV vaccine. Just that
mm,
most modern countries are doing it. Just that some of the developing countries, such as Malaysia, we are still having problem vaccinating our women. So we haven't gone on to vaccinate men yet. We're still vaccinating just the girls. Eventually, I believe that we will go into a phase where we will vaccinate also the boys. Because if you can vaccinate the boys, you eliminate cervical HPV from the boys. They cannot spread to the girls.
mm, mm,
Right? So you protect the girls, You prevent spread from the boys. That way, you prevent cervical HPV as well as cervical cancer. Eventually, I think we'll go into that in the future. For now, Malaysia, for now, the government is just doing for girls only lah.
Okay, very informative explanations again. So let us come to the last misconceptions. Okay, the last misconceptions number 5 is a lot of people think that HPV cannot be prevented. So the belief here is that there is no way to like prevent HPV infection, which is not true. So when people think that HPV infections cannot be prevented, they may perceive that HPV related health issues are inevitable. Okay, so these perceptions can actually contribute to feelings like hopelessness, resignations, and also a lack of motivations to engage in preventive behavior. And also, these misconceptions will reduce the vaccine uptake. Okay, because perceived inevitability of infections will perpetuate the cycle of the misinformations about prevention methods can lead to uh, leads to an more increase in HPV related health issue, including what Dr. Jason mentioned just now, the genital warts, cervical cancer, and also HPV related cancer. So, what are the facts, Dr. Jason?
Okay, so the facts actually is this. I think we've been repeating again and again, but basically, vaccinations can significantly reduce the risk of contracting HPV. And the vaccine is actually safe, effective, and recommended for both boys and girls. So if you look at the World Health Organization recommendation, WHO, they actually recommend from 9 to 45 years old, you can get the vaccine, HPV vaccine. Right, in Malaysia, our practice is in school, about 13 years old, you will get the vaccine, right? And that's what they used to do in schools last time. I think, Miss Kylie, when you were in school, so you got the vaccine right that time.
Yep.
But there's actually a huge cohort, a huge bunch of women who don't have, or a bunch of girls who didn't get the vaccine because of procurement issues. These are the ones who are now 13 years old to 20 years old. So there's a huge gap. So we want to make sure that no one is left behind. So actually, we're what NCSM, the National Cancer Society, is doing. We are going around providing these free vaccinations for those who were left out, especially those who are from prison, those who are Orang Asli, Sabah Sarawakians, and even those who are in like single mothers. So we're going around vaccinating them as well. So it's important because if we can vaccinate everyone, we can prevent cervical cancer in Malaysia, right? Because essentially, if you can vaccinate every woman in Malaysia, right, no one can get cervical cancer. That is the hope. That's the plan, lah. And we are close to doing it, but we need more efforts, and especially battling against this stigma, battling against this misconception is actually very important. And that's why we need a lot of mental health experts and clinical psychologists to actually get on board, because a lot of this anxiety is real. A lot of these patients I see, and even Miss Kai sees on a daily basis, we see all these patients come in and go out, and we're so scared, so afraid to do screening, to get a vaccine, to protect them against this life-threatening illness called cervical cancer. So it's very important. I think Miss Kai will show us actually some of the strategies we can do for mental health in terms of overcoming this stigma. To you.
Okay, thanks. So now come to the action plan. It's like what Dr. Jason mentioned just now. Overcoming the stigma is very, very important to improve the public health outcomes. So I will introduce some of the effective practical strategy to actually fight this stigma associated with HPV. Okay, next slide.
Yeah, so formal action plan.
Yeah, we need an action plan, right? And we need to make sure it's practical action plan. Yeah, then only people will practice it in daily life. Okay. Yeah, I make sure that all of the to be honest, when I trying to do these slides, right, I make sure that all these strategy is a self-management skills. Is that you can do yourself without the help of anyone. Okay, so one of the most effective way to overcome HPV stigma is to educate yourself about the virus. Okay, understand the HPV, the transmission, prevention, and also the treatment option can empower you to combat the misconceptions of the stigma. Okay, learn about the HPV from the trusted source, such as like the reputable medical website, healthcare professional, and also any of the scientific journal can provide you with the more accurate informations. So I believe that if you search the informations from more trustable sources, it can help you to actually to relieve the anxiety and also promote a more deeper understanding of the virus. Okay, it also can like somehow reduce your fear and your uncertainty, so to make you more easier to manage the virus and also discuss it with others. So this is the first way. Okay, and the second way is to practice self-compassion. Okay, practice self-compassion is quite significant when dealing with HPV. Recognize that having uh, HPV does not define your worth as a person, to be
Yep.
honest. Because we need to remind yourself that having a common virus like HPV does not make you less valuable or deserving or of the respect. Okay? Being kind to yourself during difficult times rather than being self-critical, and also try to engage in some mindfulness practice, acknowledge your feelings without any judgment. Okay, try to embrace the concept of like the common humanity. So common humanity is a bit hard to understand. Let me explain in a more easier way. Like it's more about understand that you are not alone in this journey, and many people also share the similar experience. Okay, this is called common humanity. Okay, and the last one is called self-kindness. Show self-kindness by treating yourself with the same care and compassion you would offer a friend if they are also having a similar kind of situations. Like what you
Ah,
actually tell your friend when they are having this experience, tell to yourself the same things. Okay, treat yourself the same kindness as you treat to others. Okay, and also the last way is open communications. So a lot of time we know that being silent and also secrecy will reinforce more HPV stigma, which may increase the feeling of the isolation and shame. Okay, so we need to encourage open communication and create a more supportive environment where people can share their experience openly without any fear or judgment. Okay, so if you choose to disclose your HPV status to others, try to follow these tips. The first one is try to be informed. Okay, ensure that you have accurate information about HPV so you can answer any questions and address any of the concern confidently. Second, choose the right time. Try to select a time when both you and the uh, other parties are calm and can have a uninterrupted conversations. Okay. Number third, try to be honest. Okay. Share your HPV status openly and try to explain any of the fact and also dispelling any of the myth and misconceptions. A lot of people think that being honest means that I need to tell every single thing like 100%. Actually, not necessary. Okay, you can choose what you felt like you are comfortable to share. Okay, and then you can reserve to share some of the information that you think is quite privately. Okay, and the last step is listen actively. Okay, try to pay attention to the other person's response, answer their questions, and also address the concern with empathy and more understanding. So when the speaker try to like share with you about their HPV status, right, they feel safe and they feel being understand. Okay, so I will want to share one of the real life example of how a public figure use this strategy to fight with the HPV stigma. So next, wow, what happened to the slide just now? I just saw, but I think it's fine lah. Okay, so let us look at the real life example of how public figures actually advocate for the HPV uh, awareness lah. So this Marisa Jared Winoku is a Tony Award-winning actress. She was diagnosed with the HPV and cervical cancer in her age of 20. Okay, so Marisa actually, when she got this HPV and cervical cancer, right, at first she's very scared and she's fear. Okay, she felt this is the end of the life already. Okay, but the good thing is she's having good support system, and she start to educate herself thoroughly about the HPV and the cervical cancer. And so she also learned about the importance of regular PET tests and also the HPV vaccine. So at the same time,
Yeah.
she also acknowledged her feeling and also focused on the health and recovery. She truly quite embraced her journey as a part of her life stories, which is not something to be ashamed of. Yeah. So instead of keeping her diagnosis as a secret, so this Marisa, she decided to share her diagnosis openly though. She's a public figure, but she shared her diagnosis very, very openly through the interviews and also social media to raise the awareness and also educate others about HPV and cervical cancer. So she emphasized the importance of early detections and also the vaccinations, and her openness actually quite shocking me as well, and which helped to demystify the HPV and cervical cancer, and to provide more support and information to many other who also like facing similar challenge. So as you can see from these case studies, it also demonstrate the power of self management skill, the one that I mentioned just now, in overcoming the HPV stigma. So by taking a more proactive steps to understand the virus, practice kindness toward oneself, and also fostering a more open communications and dialogue, we as an individual can manage the HPV diagnosis with confidence and resilience, while also contribute to a more supportive and informed community. Okay, so let me summarize. Okay, so just now we talked about the importance of to understand and overcoming the HPV stigma, and also we provide accurate informations about the HPV and also debunk the common myth. And also we discuss the psychological effect of HPV stigma on individuals and learn about self-management strategy to overcoming this stigma. And also we use the real life example of the Marisa to see how to use incorporate all this self management strategy when you are having all this experience. Okay, so let's take a stand against HPV stigma, educate yourself, educate others, and also get screened regularly, like what Dr. Jason mentioned just now, and vaccinate to protect our future.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
so that's all.
Yeah. So thanks, Miss Kai. So just wanted to emphasize again to those who are listening today, if you need any psychological support, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Leave a comment down in the comment section, PM us private messages, or drop us an email, or call our hotline. We will help you. We will help you with every aspect that we can in terms of psychological support. If you need vaccinations or you need screening, again, get in contact with us. Get in touch with us. Call our hotline or email us. We will arrange for a vaccination for you. We also arrange for screening for you to be done at our clinic, or we can even go to your site. We can go to you to do the screening and vaccination as well. All right. So again,
Hmm.
educate yourself, get vaccinated, screen, and protect your mental health.
Yeah, but actually,
Okay.
I got a questions for Dr. Jason's lah. I think a lot of people will be wonder like how old is the individual can get vaccinated, and how they can seek for the help of wanting to get the vaccinations. Can you give a little bit more of the information?
Okay. So basically, the World Health Organization says that 9 to 45 years old, you can get this HPV vaccination. But if you're 9 to 20 years old, it's just one dose for life. 20 to 45 years old is two doses, right? That's the general consensus from the World Health Organization. Of course, when they did studies, they see, oh, better got one dose and no dose lah, right? So
Mm,
those
mm,
even
mm,
above 20 years old, they got one dose, so it's a protection. At least that's
mm,
protection rather than no
mm,
protection at all.
mm,
If you need a vaccine, right, you can go to any government or private clinic. They will have those. Government may not have it yet because there's a procurement issue, and they are stocking up, right? They already announced that they are going to stock it up soon. But any private clinic will actually have it. Even NCSM, we're NGO, non-profit organization, and National Cancer Society, we also provide those vaccinations as well. So I hope that answers your question, Miss Kai. And Miss Kai, if you have anyone you want to get a vaccine or a screen, just let us know. We will help you.
I see. So they can just directly contact you or through
Yeah, so they can
NCSM.
just yeah, they can just call a hotline, email us, or call our clinic. We can help out from there, lah.
I see. Okay, so thank you so much for
Yeah,
answer my questions.
So let's open up the Q&A session to the crowd and to the audience
Yep.
today, our members of the public today. I think there are a couple of questions. So first of all, from Sky Lane Creative, why do you think HPV have a lot of misconception about it? Is it because of lack of education or something else?
First of all, I would say lack of education is one of the main issues lah about why they are having so many misconceptions about HPV, right? Like just now when I mentioned, if I never study all this, I would never know also, right? So I think, yeah, lack of education is one thing. What do you think, Dr. Jason? What is another reason?
Yeah. So I think because talking about like HPV, which is sexually
Mm,
transmitted illness, I think it's a bit taboo for people. People don't like talk about
mm,
like sexual stuff and all that. So
mm,
these type of taboo topics go under radar. Unfortunately, this health related topic, HPV, leads to cervical cancer, and because it's taboo, it's also lumped together and taboo. So there's a lot of misconception. People think it's like that, think it's like that because no one wants to talk about it. But like the Miss Marisa and as well as some of the cervical cancer survivors are very openly telling you that you need vaccination, you need to go for screening. And I think that's important that we voice out. So like what Miss Kai said, just get educated, uh, do a self compassion and open communication. Right. So that is actually very important.
true. And
Right.
I just want to add on something is that very interesting fact is that Dr. Jason, I asked my friend, to be honest, I asked them, okay, I asked them what is HPV. Okay, so they just answer me that AIDS.
Okay.
They will tend to relate HPV and AIDS. So I was like, oh, okay. So can you help to answer this as well, so people can have
So
more? Mm-mm.
mm, so HIV is the virus that causes AIDS, right? HIV is
Mm,
the full form, is human immunodeficiency virus that leads to AIDS, right? HPV is human papilloma virus. It's a different virus that causes different
mm,
problems. But why people always relate HIV and HPV is because in promiscuous women, or promiscuous men, if they go around having sex, especially if they go around having multiple sexual intercourses without protection, they are at risk for getting both of these. Right? Usually it's lumped together. It's lumped together HIV with HPV two together. So that's why they have that misconception. But
mm.
human papilloma virus and human immunodeficiency virus is a different virus. HPV, HIV, different virus, causes different problems. HPV leads to cervical cancer. HIV leads to AIDS. Okay. I think
Very
if there are no yeah. So I think if there
mm.
are no other questions,
Yep.
um, yeah. So if there are no other questions, I think we can wrap up for today. So if you have, oh, okay, great. There's one more question actually.
Oh, one more question. Let us see what is the question. Why are you laughing? Okay, from our beloved colleague Jefferson Ng. Okay, I read out the questions maybe. Okay, so Jefferson mentions that thank you for the insightful talk. Our culture often sees discussions around private parts can be sensitive. How can we initiate conversations while maintaining our cultural competencies? Wow, this is a big question. Right. Well, how can we? Okay, to be honest, right? I agree with what Jefferson mentioned is that our culture actually always seems like discussing private part is a bit like very shy. Yeah, they don't want to talk very quite openly about that. So how can we initiate the conversations, right? I would say that we need to make sure that both parties are actually comfortable to having these conversations, because remember just now what you mentioned, open communications. If I would say if one party, when you want to try to talk about all this topic, right, maybe you can try to ask more about open-ended questions, like asking more about their point of view, okay, without actually like criticizing or teasing them, because a lot of times, right, when we try to, okay, let's say from my real life example lah, when I try to discuss with my friend about some of the private parts, and yeah, the first thing they do is laughing. Yeah, and then this laughing, right, will make us felt like, oh, we don't want to share anymore. right? So I will say that if you really want to initiate a conversation, make sure you initiate conversation with someone that you are really comfortable with. Okay, so if you know that your friend is going to like tease you or actually does not respect you while talking about the private parts and also the about HPV or HIV or anything else lah, about any of the illness, actually you can refrain yourself from talking to them. Okay, but try to talk to a more uh, trustable persons or more comfortable persons so they might feel safe and more understanding. Okay, and also before you want to initiate your conversations also, right, you also need to have accurate informations about what you know about your private parts, and so what you know about HPV. Remember just now when we mentioned you need to be informed. Okay, be informed means that you need to educate and also know about what is the definition, what are the issues, and what are the concepts, and all that. So when your friend actually giving a wrong information or they're having any like misconceptions and all that, you may actually stand up for yourself. Okay, build the boundary and actually tell them openly about what it is about. Okay,
Mm.
Dr. Jason, do you have something to add on?
Yeah, actually, I feel
Mm.
that because he ended the question with maintaining our cultural
Mm.
competence, because it's very important actually. Because for me, honestly, I like I like Malaysia's modesty. I still enjoy some of it. Although some of it I'm not so keen. Like people should voice out when they got issues. People should voice out if they got problems or they got medical issues.
Mm.
They should voice out so you can get help. But at the same time, I appreciate that we are not so like such an open society. I think Malaysia is in the right place. So maintaining that cultural competency, actually, what you say, with a trusted person. Please
Mm.
don't go and tell like some stranger about all your
Yep.
what you do at night,
Yep.
what you got this issue on your penis or this and that. Please don't simply talk, but with trusted people you should, because we need to make that conversation more common, especially with people you know, your friends lah, or your friends or family members. I think those are people you
Mm.
need to talk to, because you'll never know what you don't know until you ask.
Yep. So how
Maybe
to
you
initiate is to ask first, lor.
correct.
Right. Mm-mm. But
Right.
if you felt that their response is like too making you feel more uncomfortable, I would say that find a more like what you mentioned, like more comfortable person to talk about it.
Mm.
Okay. So hope we
I think there's
answer your
one more.
question.
Yeah, I think
Mm-mm.
got one more. Kali
Oh,
is
one more question. Okay, from Wong Ban King, he actually mentions that can all HPV vaccine prevent cancer?
Yes. So the thing is, on the market, there are three types of vaccine, right? Uh, One vaccine protects against 2 strains, the other against 4 strains, the other with 9 strains.
Mm.
All these vaccines can prevent cervical cancer, right? But they protect in varying degrees. Like the 2 strain vaccine protects about 60-70%, the 4 strain protects about 90%, the 9 strain protects about 99%. Right? So you got different strains, different protection rates. But in general, yes, HPV vaccines, all the HPV vaccines can prevent against cervical cancer. I hope that answers the question, Mr. Wong Manin. Okay.
Okay, so do we have more questions?
Yeah. I think that's about it. So let me just say again, thank you, Miss Lee Kai, for spending your Thursday night with us to share about the stigma about HIV. I think I learned about the public stigma and the personal stigma and the individual stigma. I never realized individual and public is a different thing until you said it. And I'm like, yeah, actually, you're right. Self stigma and public stigma is something real.
Yeah.
For
Mm-mm.
giving us those tips, educating, compassion, and open communication. I think that's amazing. And again, thank you everyone for tuning in today. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section. We will answer later, or our team will let us know, and we'll answer you personally through either text, email, or personal message. All right. With that, thank you everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you.